Quick disclaimer here. This is actually an edited version of a video that I was going to call the final version of episode 2, but I decided to edit out the album version of the US soundtrack because I want to make these comparisons more fair, so I'll show the in-game versions for both soundtracks. So there will be, from this point onward, no more album versions of the US soundtrack to make things more fair, and so people don't say it's all rigged against so-and-so soundtrack. The commentary will still mention the album soundtrack, but I will not include the album versions of the US soundtrack in this, to make this just every bit more fair. I'd like to thank my reviewers for helping me review these videos before they were released so I can make things better for you guys. So shoutouts to those people. And with that, on to the video. Hello everybody, this is Sonic, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Sonic City Soundtrack Comparison, Episode 2. In the last episode, we compared the pre-game themes, and now we're going to get into the main game theme, starting off with Palmtree Panic. The way how this will work is we're going to go through the present themes first, then the bad future themes, then the good future themes. So let's get started. Round 3, Palmtree Panic Present. Here's the Japanese soundtrack. And now for the American soundtrack. The Japanese version is very beautiful, very lighthearted, and it does fit the aesthetic of a first level theme very much. It's also very nostalgic for me, as I played this song on Sonic Generations all the time when I was a kid. Sonic Generations, you have custom music, and one of them is Palmtree Panic present from the Japanese soundtrack, and I always had that song on like almost every stage, even on some of the boss stages. It's an absolutely amazing song. The American version, on the other hand, it fits more. It sounds more tropical, more African, more sort of Latin American, really depending on how you really see it. But you do know that it does sound more tropical, and it does sound more natural. I also do like some of the instruments in it too. It's very lighthearted, but not as much as the Japanese version. It is definitely something you can relax to, and it wouldn't be that much out of place in a Super Mario Sunshine. I think the Japanese soundtrack wins this round because nostalgia, but because I also like the song more. So Japan wins round 3. Palmtree Panic present, the first level theme out of 21. In the first season, I gave this round to the US soundtrack by a landslide, but my opinion has changed. So the first level theme has flipped for the Japanese soundtrack from the American soundtrack. It's not really setting up a good omen for some things here. But let's move on to round number 4. Palmtree Panic Bad Future. Here's the Japanese version. And now for the American version. The Japanese version is actually the first Sonic City song I've ever heard out of the 66. It's very crazy, very dark, very much fits a Bad Future setting. I really love the unused loop. However, I do find this song to be, I don't know, kind of a bit weird, I guess you could say. I like the instrumentation in the Japanese version. I kind of like how a bit industrial it sounds. I don't really like the vocals too much. I think the vocals sometimes can be a bit too weird for Palmtree Panic Bad Future. And sometimes I find it flaring, and that can be a bit ear-grating because those high-pitched notes. The American version, however, is very natural, very tribalistic, very African. It fits the background. It fits that polluted waterfall in the background. It's also one of my favorite songs from the American soundtrack, and it's still been like that ever since I listened to it. So America wins this round by a landslide at that. It's time for the final round of Palmtree Panic. Round 5, Palmtree Panic Good Future. Here's the Japanese version. And now for the American version. The Japanese version of Palmtree Panic Good Future, it's a good song, but it's too similar to the present theme. I do find some of the clarinet notes to be a bit too ear-grating. Those high-pitched clarinet notes, they're a bit too loud. So it's giving it that ear-grating effect. The vocals are okay, I guess, but generally speaking, I'm not really a big fan of the kids screaming too much in Palmtree Panic. I like the unused loop, but not as much as the Japanese version. And as a song, I'm not really too sure if it's better or worse than the Bad Future right now. The American version, however, that was phenomenal. The album version has so much unused content in the beginning, and that intro is beautiful. It sounds like you're warping into the future. The US version, once again, is natural, it's African. and it's just, generally speaking, one of my favorite songs from the American soundtrack. It sounds better. I think it's even better composed. And it's also not a copy-paste of the present theme. And I do like how it shows that yin-yang of the bad future and good future. Basically the same song, but two very different moods of it. It does a good job of showing, hey, it's bad future. Things are pretty dark here. This is the good future. Things are lighter here. Basically the same design, same layout, but things are much more different in contrast of the mood. And I like how the American version does that in Palmtree Panic, Bad Future and Good Future. This was easy. This was an easy round. America wins by a landslide. The final score for this video is 3-2, the American soundtrack leading over the Japanese soundtrack. We have our first lead at the end of the video. Tune in next time for our comparison in Collision Chaos. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye, and have a blessed day.